Hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite Ruff Tavares talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take a bite out of everything and share it with you. Of course, today we have our friends Evan and Lydia, who are here to talk all things Bad Ink.
Hello.
Hello.
And of course, we have our friend Gage on the guest host thing today.
How's it
Thanks
going?
for joining us, Gage. All right, so guys, let's start this off with a blast. Either one of you can start it off. Tell us the spiel on Bad Ink Studios.
Do you want to go, Lydia? You do the spiel.
The spiel. All right, I guess we make weird underground comic anthologies focusing on sci-fi with tinges of like good sci-fi does, horror and other bizarre weird things. But each issue we change it up. The stories may one day continue, but for right now they're standalone stories. We change up the writing and the art. Well, we so far have both been doing the writing and the art, but each one has a different style to it and themes that we explore. And we just make kind of out there stuff and kind of indulging ourselves as far as what stories we want to pursue or like the look of it for each
And it
different
is out there. You guys do beautiful work. I can't believe that it's just you two doing the art because it looks like a bunch of different artists are working on your book.
That's why it takes so long, though.
that's the trade-off. Yeah, is it takes a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a good job of making it look like there's a bunch of people working for you.
Thanks.
It's all an illusion.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, and I've been watching your TikToks, Evan. It does have that feel of heavy metal, and it kind of reminds me of all the beautiful stuff that heavy metal used to do in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And you guys are doing it in magazine size, right?
Yeah, it's like 8 by 10.5. I think it's almost exactly the same size as like Savage sort of Conan or Heavy Metal Magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
They fit in magazine bags and boards. So like people always are like, oh no, if I buy it, I can't put it in a bag and board. But you just gotta have the old like magazine size ones.
Exactly. You know, like me, us oldies have.
Yeah,
Gage has a couple too.
Format a little.
I don't have anything that size.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, everything I have is standard comic.
Some of the humanoid stuff came big, but those are more like the graphic novels already, I guess, and like trades where they're a little oversized.
I've read a lot of heavy metal, but I've never owned any of them either, though.
So I figured you Gage you would have it because you collect the D&D magazines.
No, I just have the books. I have the standard role-playing book size.
I got too much of that stuff here. The magazines, so I had to get the stuff. There goes Izzy coming in saying hi. Izzy will be there this weekend at Garden State Comic Fest with the rest of us. We're going to throw a big party, show off the con, and of course, Bad Ink will be there. And I can't wait to talk to you guys while we're there.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah, the only time that I won't be at our booth is when I'm at one of the other vendors looking for old heavy metal magazines. That's actually true. I actually like sneak away to go because those guys will give you really good deals on those magazine size books because they're trying to get rid of them because they don't want to cart those big boxes around. So you can get like half price on like 70s heavy metal. So that's usually what I'm doing when I'm not sitting at our booth.
And then you can scope the condition too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what it's like in person.
Exactly.
No, man. Izzy's saying that he's going to be at the Tokyo Bronx table with giveaways.
Nice.
Of course, Izzy likes to do those giveaways, and he does some great giveaways. And if you join the Izzyverse, because Izzy has his own thing going on, he has special things for anybody that's on the Izzyverse. So you get like special books because he likes to give away stuff.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh man, dude, I gotta say, how did you decide to go TikTok? Because it's really working for you. Like we were just talking about in the green room. It's and I have to admit, I love the conversations you're having on it because it's comic creator conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lydia and I we're of the generation that came of age through Instagram and Facebook, right? Like
I mean, we saw it happen all, so it was like the waves from like
so we had like I feel like we had Facebook and Instagram And then it was like, well, we'll do anything to sell comics, you know, like, and so we started a TikTok, and that's the one that just, you know, you post the same video in every place, and TikTok is the one that gets 15,000 views instead of 200, and 200, not 200,000, just 200 period views. And you're like, well, this one's pretty good. So you just put more and more time into it. And then before you know it, you have a lot more followers there and a lot more comments, and you have a much more community, and you've met all these cool people. So it's just the one that's the most rewarding, you know? Yeah.
Because we started them at like the same time, like the Instagram and the TikTok. I mean, maybe even the Instagram before, but just the way the Instagram algorithm's been like just really ad heavy, it seems like. I don't know. It seems like they're really just punishing every account in a way to like just force ad sales, where they're like, we're just gonna throttle you till you're desperate enough to like pay us money kind of thing. But it's just been a funny experiment, like on the reception on TikTok instead of Instagram, with like relatively same content kind of thing.
I feel like with Instagram, you know, the only time they reward you is when you're trying to like I found that right now what we do with you guys, like when I go to the conventions and I do the, okay, where are you? You know, who are you? You know, the whole spiel, right? I feel those have been doing well for everybody. And I'm surprised because I was like, I don't get it. We're not doing anything. and it's just that we're putting that out. And I end up putting out like 10 videos in one shot. Because, you know, you're at the convention, you stop at each person you know, and you're trying to like bring them. All right, so we did an interview with these guys, but now we're going to do this here. And they're going to tell us, you know, who they are, where they can find them online. And it kind of does something through the algorithm. I don't know what it is. I'm not even going to try to think about what it is.
Yeah.
And it's been working, and we get a lot of traffic with that.
On Instagram more than TikTok, when you're doing like the intros and stuff, is what you're saying?
It's funny because on TikTok, what ends up happening is I've put the same interviews on TikTok, and they don't go anywhere. Like
right.
same little segments. Yeah, they don't go anywhere. I'm like, okay, it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I should go back and try putting them on again, because you know, they just stay in my phone.
Sometimes they're arbitrary like that, and like you'll post the exact same thing like one day and it doesn't work. Either that's happened to me where something glitches out and I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll just delete the whole stupid post and try again later instead of like trying to like double post. And then it does really great the next time, and I'm like, oh, apparently the exact same caption and everything, but just like slightly different posting time. Like Evan made a little video joking about that the other day. Like the algorithm. He was like,
oh yeah, I love the algorithm one. I was on that going, yeah, I have that same conversation with algorithm all the time.
Again, it still kind of like favors it a little bit, even though it's not like it's showing up sequentially. It's not like old school Instagram where like at 5 o'clock you saw all the stuff like at 5. Like now it's like jumbling it and crap like that, you know. And I mean, like showing just suggested stuff all over the place, and it's not like linear anyways. Or like, yeah.
And it's funny because even with TikTok, like you're saying, you know, some things go and some things just like stay there. And you're like, and it's funny.
Want to know our real secret? We make sacrifices to the gods.
You're like the rest of Hollywood. Okay, no problem.
Ritual sacrifices. We burn our ancient heavy metal magazines.
By the power of the ancient heavy metal magazines, we call for.
Yeah, they're high value.
Yeah, talking. Actually, it turns out that you don't. You can sacrifice and burn your old heavy metals, because if you talk about a 50-year-old, 60-year-old science fiction magazine on TikTok, no one actually cares. So I do just buy them. I do just buy them to burn, to sacrifice, to get my other videos doing well. Because every time I talk about heavy metal on TikTok, people are like, "What is this?" All these like
the music.
Kids. Yeah.
Dude, you started putting up the heavy metal stuff, and I was like, "Oh, look at this! It's fantastic!" And I saw the same thing. I was like, "Oh, these videos aren't really."
Yeah, they get no views. I think they're interesting. I'm trying to like introduce younger people. I'm trying to introduce young people to it, but this is also what happens when we're like in between issues. Like when we're closer to putting issue 3 out, a lot of the content will sort of write itself. It'll be like, look at me working on issue 3. Look at me lettering issue 3. You know, look at the inks for issue 3. But right now it's sort of like in a weird liminal space where I'm like, oh, I have to talk about.
Or like too many giveaways with the pencils, or we're like, oh, we don't want to like reveal this page, you know, where you want to like show.
Yeah, you can't show too much too early. So I'm just like in this weird liminal space where I'm like, oh, I got to talk about comics I like and do comedy sketches. I'm just like trying to fill time until our next issue is actually ready.
The fun part of TikTok is that we have to find what content to keep putting up. That's why I was like, that's it. All I'm doing is promos. That's and every once in a while I'll do a video that I'm like, it's because my mind goes, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I'm like, nope, space. That's
it. That is probably the hardest part about this whole venture is not making the comics. It's not, I mean, making comics is hard, but it sort of comes naturally if you're passionate about comics. The hardest part for sure is like having to post like almost every day and being like, I have to learn video editing. I have to market myself. I have to market. It's easy when Lydia's art looks as good as it does, to be honest. Like, I mean, there's a reason we have so many followers, and it's not because like I make the best videos. It's because I make decent videos with good art. You know what I mean? Like if the art was bad, we wouldn't have followers. You know what I mean?
It's like comics a lot. Like we're there in tandem. I mean, like me personally with comics, even I don't mind bad art so much, but the storyline's got to be good. Whereas some people like, the visuals great, they're happy, and they don't really care if the storyline's trash, but like they get too distracted by the visuals, you know. It's definitely that weird balance with trying to.
I've always been the guy in the middle. I'm like, okay, I need good art and a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming in and learning that, like as an indie creator, that you have to be, you're not just selling comics, you're selling yourself too. Like through, like if you, the more visible you are, the more people are gonna see you.
Especially now with like the internet and just like, I don't know, it feels like everything is so like, what's your story? You know, like you watch any reality thing and they're like, no, but what trauma have you had? Like, how are you hurt?
That's
like,
what they want to hear. Yeah.
Do you deserve this? Like, but I mean, like, yeah.
And it makes so much sense because when Evan talks about the little controversies he had on the TikTok, then when he starts to get all these people talking to him and wanting to put their 2 cents.
That's actually when we sell that's the problem with the internet right now is that it is very controversy driven. Like you can't say like I didn't like that movie. You have to say like it was the worst movie ever. Like, and you see it, you get rewarded really quickly for behaving like that, like in views and like even in like orders. Like we'll get more comic orders on the day when I like make fun of. I try not to do this anymore because it's very toxic.
Funny like feeding the machine where you're like, like I don't want to like condone this behavior. It's like the news now where it's like, why are we stuck in this news cycle, or why is Facebook evil?
But we're the ones clicking on the like messed up articles, right? Like yeah. It's so I'm trying to be more positive on TikTok because like I'll make fun of like someone will leave a comment that's like really silly and like they clearly don't know what they're talking about and they're just like setting themselves up to be like, you know, basically publicly shamed, you know, like and I used to say like, hey everybody, like this person doesn't know what they're talking about, haha, and then we would get like a bunch of comic orders and I was like, oh, this is actually like really like I can't do this anymore.
TikTok about that.
Yeah, and so like I'm conscious. I like put up a video that was like, I'm trying to be, because you get the fans you deserve, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if anybody's ever been to like a concert for like a really bad band, like not bad music, but like they're bad people,
like a weird following, and you're like,
and you go to the concert and like everybody's like really like it's the mosh pit's like too rough and like people are like mean, and you're like, I really don't want that. So I'm trying, and I don't think I'm a bad person or a mean person, so I'm trying really hard to be like more
do a good job of balancing
positive, you know.
Well,
I don't even call people out, even if somebody's like blatantly wrong and they're like attacking me, I'll just like delete the comment. I don't make like a reply video anymore where I'm like, hey, this is why you're wrong. Yeah.
It's definitely figuring out like the troll navigation anymore of just like what's the best way to deal with it, or like Evan's saying like, all right, try to lead by example, like if rather than just make it a total you know, like Thunderdome of terrible
controversy. But your orders slow down. Like if you're an indie creator, it's a scary, like it's not a good lesson to learn that you can, people who are fans of yours will come to your defense by buying your stuff if they see that people are attacking you, and it's like that's really a dark cycle. So anyway.
It is. It's funny that you say that though, because you know, you guys are at a interesting point right now. You sold out of your book. What are you gonna do?
Well, its timing is kind of coinciding with the volume 3 coming out, or like issue 3 or whatever. Right. So like maybe we'll do some reprints or something. We were hesitating on whether or not to like hold off and do no more reprints and just like wait and issue a trade with the next one down the line, but I don't know. Right now, I think we're leaning towards a partial reorder.
We
of
should,
issue 1 and
yeah,
2.
we should reprint. I don't know. I think
We're still
I don't know.
debating. I don't know. We were debating also making a listing on the Kickstarter, and then maybe like feeling it out by numbers that way. Like, but I don't know. But
Interesting.
that could be.
Yeah, because what we could do for our next Kickstarter is list a bundle that's second printing of issues 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And
like,
then the new, and you get the new book too. So you get 3 books, the
Not
new
bad.
printing of the new book, and the reprints of the 2. And we could see like how many of those 3-packs do you sell? Like,
and maybe we'll suss out like how much of a reprint we do, because like definitely, you know, the fun part of being an indie publisher is that your house is probably your warehouse, and you're like just stashing stuff at home. So it's been nice like getting rid of some boxes, but you know, it's nice
I
that
gotta
things
admit,
sell, but we don't need.
you know, now that you say that, Lydia, I saw the TikTok where you showed how much stock you used to have in the house. of
Yeah.
the book.
God.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
that was my extra bedroom in my apartment, and it was like
Eaten
an
by-
entire wall, and it was like, I mean, I remember when it got delivered, it was like I don't know how many hundreds of pounds it was, but like our book is big and thick, and like there's 2 issues of it, and it's on 70-pound paper, like, which for anybody who knows printing, that's like pretty substantial paper stock. So when you put like 1,000 copies of that in boxes, it was like really, it was like, that's actually one of the reasons, to be totally honest, that image of seeing that against one wall of an entire bedroom in my apartment was actually like one of the main motivators to like try to take social media more seriously.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh my God, like I can't be one of those people
a decade later, you're
a
like,
decade later who's self-published and has just the boxes in their garage. I was like, I can't be that person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so scared of like having to move these from apartment to apartment. Like my body's going to give out before I can actually sell them.
Exactly.
So
Moving
that
my
was like,
collections is enough, let alone like overstock.
yeah. So I've made some mistakes in my life where I've ended up with a lot of extra stock of something that I thought I was going to sell. So this one I was like, no, I'm not going to do it this time. So that image is burned into my brain for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I can imagine, and that's a lot of books, bro.
And I mean, over time too, I think we're gonna winnow down like how much issue, you know, like most comics. Like, I don't think we're gonna keep reprinting the single issues forever. We're gonna phase into the trades kind of thing, rather than keep.
That's definitely. I can see that happening for you guys. I can
Yeah.
see it. Like, you know, I think what people do is they wait for either the 4th or 5th issue, and then they put a big
Exactly.
trade together.
I think that's us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking. Maybe the next one around, we're gonna do the trade and do a single issue and then trade paperback also.
God,
like
that Kickstarter for issue 4 is going to be a nightmare, because we're going to have to be like, there's going to be like 900 different rewards, because it's like, do you want the single? Do you want the single plus the trade paperback? Do you want the singles of all 4? Do you want the singles of all 4 plus the trade paperback? Like,
and just see if we can do a bunch of add-ons. You know what I mean? It's like grocery shopping style, like just tally
yeah,
up
where you could just like add stuff to a menu.
Exactly.
We really need to hire somebody. I feel like
you guys are getting to that point. Yeah. You're getting to that point where you're like, we need to hire an extra person to help us out here.
We need to hire someone who wants to work for free.
And that's the problem, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's a
Intern
play here. We
Do
need
we
somebody
have
that
to
can
pay
help us
interns,
out,
though?
please.
I think we still have to pay interns. In New York, for me, I'd have to pay them. In New York State.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jersey.
So you might have to do it in Jersey.
oh yeah, whatever state is like, whatever state is the
feasible state.
That's so awful, because I'm like really pro, like, you know, paying people fair wages and stuff, and here I am like, which state can I get away with
We're
like,
the
not paying
children.
somebody?
That's the reality of making comics, though. You know, like one of the reasons my comic hasn't come out is because I understand that certain people need to be paid, and it needs to happen a certain way. And you know, you can cut corners, and you can probably get to where you need to go, but you really don't want to cut too many corners.
Yeah.
Well, you start to burn relationships with people too, and yeah, you get a reputation really quickly. I'm like, I mean, Lydia's a little bit more familiar with the indie comic world from being in it. You know, I kind of joined late, to be honest. I mean, I kind of jumped on the train, being like, "Hey, Lydia, like, let's do something," you know. But
Even
Lydia
I've
was
been bad with sporadic production, but yeah.
you were doing it longer than, you know. Lydia and I have known each other a long time, but when we graduated college, I went off and did a whole other career, you know. And Lydia was kind of like, you were doing the hustle, you were working on projects here and there, and so you've built up a bit more of, you know, a network and relationships with people in the indie world. And I'm newer to this, so I was very surprised at how quickly you realize how much everybody knows each other, how much people who
Definitely
don't pay
small
people
circle.
get known. Yeah.
It's a big world, but it's a small circle.
Exactly.
We are very nice to people at cons because you never know if you need them to. One day I'm going to need them to letter one of our books or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Exactly.
And you try not to work that way, where you're like asking people for free stuff, because, like you said, you start to burn bridges. And I know, Lydia, as an artist, you have to deal with that, all the time. Like, well,
For your portfolio.
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And you're like, this takes so much time. Like, unless I'm literally writing this off for advertising costs for the year, like, then no, this isn't for my advertising. Or like, the rare insane gig maybe. Like, but even then, I'm sure if it was some insane gig, they'd be paying you. Like,
right.
Some kind of money, yeah.
Like, they have money to pay you at that point.
But I feel like the world, the world out there, the ones that's and it's still attached to us, but the world in general tends to look at comics and go, "Oh, okay, they're just playing." They're making their books, but they're just playing. They don't see it as serious as it is. They don't know that an artist works their ass off to get all that work done, and that's hours and hours of work. They act like it's just scribbling on a paper. Or getting the comic done is easy work, but no, these are difficult jobs. Getting a comic done is really complicated and hard work.
Yeah.
And that depends on how much of it you can do yourself.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing I'm learning, like, is that I have to know more and more and more and more and more stuff to, like, how to work Photoshop and how to do my cuts and bleeds. And I've only been at this like a year and a half. And the more you know, the less you have to hire other people to do it.
Yeah, it's just the sweat equity dilemma.
Yep.
Where then you just get caught where you're like, how much time do I have? Or I definitely get where you end up with like some artist studio, like art slave setups, like kind of thing, like manga style, like where they're just keyframing it and they're like, look, if you want 1,000 pages in 1 year, then like this is a group effort. Like, it's not a one-man deal. Because otherwise you get our timeline where it's like bespoke comics. And
that's like the one thing that we're trying to do is like, we know we take a long time, so we're calling them like bespoke, artisanal. We're like vinyl in a streaming world. Like, we're trying to make them seem quality, like the premium. I mean, I guess they are truly premium because we print them on. Like, when it came time to pick, like, do we go for the heavier paper stock and the heavier cover weight and all that? We were like, yes, absolutely, because it makes it seem like even nicer and therefore justifies how long it takes to do each one. It's just those little decisions that like add up to something bigger,
And it's still a treat because it's still cheaper than it used to be even at Kinko's in high school when we made our like first comic and we're printing them by hand and folding them by hand and everything, let alone like quality paper stock for cheaper than that. Right. It's crazy. Yeah.
And you hit upon it because it was so much more difficult to make a comic, in the 90s and the 2000s, because you still didn't have the mechanism that's on now. Now you have all these things that you can actually do to actually try to make the comic yourself. Back then, you had to figure out how to fund that thing with your own money, or hopefully you had some friends that would help you out. You didn't have Kickstarter.
Or a partner who did part of the work and,
exactly.
and was looking for the payout at the end, you know.
And definitely print-on-demand stuff is more available now. Just the price point. You needed either like a massive print run for a small publisher, like a small print shop kind of thing, or you were doing DIY. And then you had the color interior dilemma. That's why so many indie comics are just black and white with like a nice silkscreen cover, because you can DIY that, but rather than trying to like figure out the color interiors, on a mass scale and trying to output that, and just get so pricey quick.
I'm so happy that I live now. Because my project, it would have never gotten off the ground, not unless I found some guy who was going to be like, Ralph, we'll help you out. Here's some money.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, wasn't the story with like, because like I'm really inspired more. It's funny because I always liked Ninja Turtles and I always liked the comics, but the longer we do this, the more I'm like sort of obsessed with the Eastman and Laird story because of what they accomplished when they did.
Accomplished it.
Because they kind of did
before freaking Image, which was
they really did. I mean, they basically did what we do. I mean, it's almost exactly the same as like two people doing everything, and they did it out of somebody. I think I don't remember whose house, one of their houses, and they were
Yeah.
put two drawing tables like back to back in a kitchen or something, and they called it Mirage Studios because they were like, oh, it's only two of us and it seems like we're a big studio, so we'll, as a joke, they called it Mirage because it was like tricking everybody.
That's
And
funny.
then, and I think they still had to get a loan from one of their dads in order to be able to like do the first, because the minimum print run back then was like, I don't think a printer would talk to you unless you wanted to do like 5,000 comics, you know, like just the startup cost of one of those big printing drums,
and that's
was
like small.
so much. Yeah, and that was tiny. And then they had to get on distribution lists to comic stores. Like, I don't know how they did that, quite frankly. It sort of like blows my mind to think about it.
I mean, what city were they even in at the time? If you're lucky, you're in like a major city or like tri-state area kind of thing where you can maybe like ferry it around. Like I had a friend, this dude, Chris Antzulis, who does comics, and he's like did 1 or 2 Kickstarters himself, and he's like, I got them in stores because I drove up and down the East Coast, going from store to store, being the dude. Like, but
that's crazy. I mean, we could do that, but
I contemplated at one point. I still got to put in my town, but you know, ironically, apparently Oneonta is just game town. Like we've got like 5 comic book stores, and each has the saddest little comic book rack in the back, and they are serious gamers. Like where there's like game rooms, and they just stare at you, and they're like, "Don't you want Dungeons and Dragons things? Like, don't you want?"
Yeah, they don't want comics. They want like
they have an insane board game selection and like just
no comics. Yeah,
and then like some paints for like the figurines, and the comics are like sad.
You're saying exactly how things are now. Is like you can't just be a comic store anymore. You have to be a community center where you do many things and hope that comics sell.
Exactly.
A lot of them subsist off Magic the Gathering.
Exactly.
That I could see too. Yeah, just like other duels and stuff. Definitely a lot of the stores around here. It's there's 2 colleges in town. There's like a SUNY campus and then Hartwick. So I guess they have enough students and people. But every shop has like a few different little like game situations or tables and stuff. Whether like you said, it's Magic or like a Warhammer game they're going at or random stuff. But yeah, it's funny. They're open late too, surprisingly.
Oh, because the games go late. If you're playing Warhammer, that game takes like 14 hours to.
I know, right?
No, D&D alone, man. If you got a good campaign going, you're gonna be there for a couple hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, I played D&D in college, and we would do, I mean, God, like 20-hour sessions.
Yes,
it was
like
crazy.
marathon style.
Yeah, I remember those marathons. It'd be like the next day, and you're still playing. And you're telling yourself, I should be asleep.
It's been such a long time since I've gotten to do a game like that.
Oh, those are the good games.
Well, look,
we don't marathon, but we play steady like every Sunday for 8 hours. That's one of those things I kept in my life. We role play 8 hours every Sunday. But I miss the marathon games where like you're falling asleep on the couch and you're still trying to role play.
All your characters' decisions get like really poor.
Oh yeah.
So tired. Yeah.
Like, I need to stop. Like, losing limbs, all my good items.
Dude, you guys are at a point where you sold out all your books. That and I bring that up again because it's just not
Speaking
what happens with what we do.
Well, that was the one thing, was us joking, like, as much as we don't need inventory, I'd made sure, like, early on, I'm like, well, partly because I had, like, hoarded a couple copies, and I was like, I need to tell Evan, so make sure he's hoarding, too, and he's not like...
Yeah, we did, out of safety, we did put aside a few copies each, just in case, like, we sold out, and, like, someone called, and they were like, someone famous wants to see your work tomorrow. And we were like, we should probably put aside a couple copies, like just in case we need to put it in an envelope or put it in a safe because we're the next Eastman and Laird and our first print run is going to be worth like $30,000. Who knows, you know?
There's a bunch of reasons why you should do it. Yeah.
So we have a few copies stashed, but I mean, this for all intents and purposes, yeah, the store, everything on the website is marked.
And
sold
just
out.
if we don't reprint or something like that.
I was actually on the site right now.
Yeah.
We still have a few things, but I'm more surprised than anyone.
We have one
set that we sold out.
Like one deluxe, I mean not deluxe bundle, one sticker pack bundle left, and that's it. I wish
we have one.
Almost just say like there's one. So if you're waiting, like this is it. But
yeah, I was here and I was like, sold out.
We did say we held on to a small batch for the convention, So,
the original art's still available, by the way. Nobody buys that.
Yeah.
I that blows my.
I'm
By the
waiting
way,
for one day that someone will be
anybody
like, I bought them all, and like,
if anybody
yeah,
is watching this and wants to invest in something that is like guaranteed to go up in value, buy Lydia's art, because it's like we priced it so low. So if you want to buy original art,
I'm gonna have some original art at the Comic-Con too.
I was gonna say that's the
Flat
best place.
file sale.
The best place to sell that stuff is at the Comic-Con.
Yeah, I was like rating my flat file for some weird old random drawings and stuff, and some Batman, the Bat. Well, not Batman.
It's probably one of the only times you can get a superhero piece by Lydia is at this con, because you don't have a ton of them, and people love that stuff. They're gonna go.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping people will love it, and then they will buy it and give me their money. Be an artist. We need to like save the artist campaign, like, or just like support your local, like that sad commercial. Maybe we should make a TikTok with just us being like, oh, with that, like, what is it, Sarah McLachlan or whatever that song.
Oh, in the arms of the angels. Oh, that's actually a really good idea. I might actually film, because I know enough Adobe Premiere to be able to like
our ink stained hands,
sad, like 50% transparency, like images of like you crying over each other. Yeah.
Pan over the drafting table.
Have her drawing art and going.
Wait, that's actually that's actually a good video. I should make that.
Yeah, and then
I agree. I can't wait to see it.
It's like looking sad. Our cat's just staring sadly at the camera.
Oh yeah, because we
you can see her drawing at the table. Her eyes are, have the water coming down the eyes.
Exactly. Support these artists so they can feed their animals. Save the dog, the cat.
There you go. You can even put the cat and the dog in the video, going, these poor animals, they need some pet love. Come on.
Yeah, actually, this is actually like a really good idea, especially like, again, like I said, like we're waiting for all the issue 3 art to be done so I can start making videos about it. But I need things to make videos about in the meantime, So
exactly.
This is perfect.
Here's a question for you guys, because I've seen Lydia's stuff, and even though she goes in this direction with her art, this isn't exactly what she's been doing before. So how did you guys come out with this look for this? Because it just has a unique look to it.
I guess it's funny with me because I know everyone's always like, oh, work on your style. But for me, like a lot of times style happened to be, mine definitely isn't like styly enough where it's like, oh, that's like, like Adventure Time where you're like, that's a very definitive style. But a lot of the time it was just me striving for realism, honestly. And that's just sort of how it comes out. You know what I mean? Like the fingerprint, whether you're like mean to have it or not kind of thing. But otherwise, like some of the style choices are probably more on like the painterliness or not, with like eco matter, how much rendering, like how crisp it is, or more brushwork kind of thing, like, you know what I mean? But a lot of the style is driven by the materials you use, because people think that you can simulate like classic comic inking digitally, and I'm like a big digital art supporter, but Lydia's using ink on paper with a brush, and you just can't quite get it on an iPad, you know what I mean? So a lot of the style of the books are because you're using ink wash, paint, like you're using real tangible
and you can
things,
tell as you look at the book, as you look at the art, you can actually tell that this has been done on paper, that it's not digital, that it has a different feel to it. I've tried doing iPad work, and I had a Cintiq for like a decade or so, but like I just still don't get the same result, even with like the pressure sensitivity. It's different lines, like even with like all those Kyle brushes for Photoshop, which were like, they're awesome. It's sick. Or like the True Grit Texture Supply had some good brushes and stuff too, but it's still just like, it's funny how you end up with like a different result. And then it's also like the zoom in and the undo effect happens. And then like, it's tough not to keep micro managing and like zooming in to like
I do think that's like a big part of it, is like I agree with you, Lydia. It's like because you're on paper and you can't zoom in and eternally and fix tiny little things.
I already draw too many details.
It's like there's almost like a weird, like sometimes things do kind of run together in a really like interesting. It's like when you listen to a vinyl record, it's not like as good as digital, but it just has like a quality to it that's more appealing somehow. I feel like that's the same. Yeah. Like when I see people's process videos on TikTok when they're on the iPad, and they're just zooming in and like erasing out the edge of lines to make them perfect. Yeah. And you can't do that. You're just like, whatever your eye can see is what's there when you draw, Lydia.
When it's on paper, it's a whole different experience, a whole different feeling. You have to have other tricks in order to figure out how you're going to do those tricks that they do on the iPad.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and some it's just the old school drafting that like birthed
Yeah.
iPad, you know, like how Photoshop's like half based on like photo developing techniques and stuff like that, and like old editing. Like
Oh yeah.
it's just like the analog to digital stuff. So then you're like, well, like how much do I want to do on paper? Or sometimes
Yeah.
like I'll incorporate mistakes. Other times I'm like, yeah, I'm erasing that later. Like I'm not gonna obsess over trying to get this little dot or that hairline that's not there. Like I'll tweak that in
Yeah.
Photoshop, you know.
That's how it was though. Like I remember like reading comics and seeing, you know, the little smudges or the little things. It wasn't perfect. You know, you had some
Yeah.
artists that had this look, but at the same time, like you know, when you look at the old books, you see the little mistakes in it.
Yeah.
We have those, but that's why I like it. I
Part
don't
of the
know.
art. It's part of the love.
It's not like sterile because yeah, sometimes it can
Yeah.
be easy to like get caught up in like nitpick too much and it just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
takes away
But
some
that's
of,
the whole point.
you're saying
You
like
don't want to do that.
naturalness.
I do think that that's a lot. That's the main reason why our stuff has a certain look is the fact that we embrace those like old school techniques. Well, I don't. That's also probably why it has a unique look. Is that Lydia's like so analog in the coolest way, and I'm so digital. Like I do everything in Photoshop.
It's cool.
like,
You don't want to
with
do the old school
airbrushes.
coloring. It's like
Yeah, that would be a little
plating
too
with
much.
like pH Martins or whatever on like transparencies.
Yeah, God, if I was like
Artist.
cutting like transparencies
Yes,
for the
That's
coloring,
reason.
yeah.
exactly.
But I
for
do
a
think
second-
I think that's our look is the old meets new, you know.
Oh, definitely. For a second here, we have
I
our
made it into
pal
the show. Let's
all the way from
go.
Malaysia. Mr. Nathan's in Malaysia.
Oh, sick.
You're in
Man, Ralph's
Malaysia?
just doxing me today.
Hey, dude,
Anyway, salama, everyone.
I had to get
Salama.
you in here in a minute, but it was a great conversation. I didn't want to cut it.
Listen, I'm only here for like not even 2 minutes, 1 minute left, and then I gotta run again. So, hi, Salama, Flu Schmalo, follow Flu Schmalo. Yes, added her in. Anyone else? Yeah, be back in the board in a while. So, yeah, let's go.
Nice.
Are you having fun in Malaysia, Nathan?
No, I'm working.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good place to work at. Come on.
What time is it? What time is it there?
Let's just say it's the next day ahead of you guys.
Yeah, it's got to be like what, like
Is it a
It's-
12-hour time difference or is it like
About 12, yeah.
oh, so it's
It's
not
like
even
tomorrow
actually
morning.
as bad as I because like you're just up in
Oh, so you're in the morning. It's not like awful. You're
It's
like,
not like 4 a.m. or something.
yeah, exactly.
It's still pretty weird that
Yeah.
you're in a different time zone, and I feel very honored that
He's
you,
in the
you're
future.
here.
He's a day ahead.
What's the world like in the future? Tell us.
I'll just wait till you hear about like getting paid because that means since my bank is still American, my payment is slated for today, but it's like 2 days ago. So I don't get it till like another week later. Anyways, I'm running out of time. So see you guys. Bye.
Thanks for joining us, Nate.
Hi.
That was Nathan, all the way from Malaysia, having fun where he is, or working, whatever you want to call it.
I wish I was somewhere that wasn't New Jersey.
No, right?
Look, I love New Jersey, but going somewhere for vacation or something like Malaysia.
Yeah,
would be cool.
exactly.
Evan, you don't want to choose Jersey over Malaysia?
I will say I am very I did not really think about this before I moved to New Jersey, but now that I'm here, I am very impressed by the comic culture of New Jersey, and I'm obviously it makes
Yeah,
sense. It's
big
like
comic
the
culture.
So you're
Hubert
gonna say,
schools
like,
here.
Taylor
You know,
Ham or Jersey Turnpike. I'm very impressed with the
I'm impressed by the Turnpike too.
Dude, New Jersey has a big comic book scene.
It's so cool. I love it,
Yeah.
and I didn't really think about that before I moved here. It's just sort of serendipitous, you know. But I love it, and I really love the Garden State Comic Fest. The summer
Oh,
one
dude,
is
yeah.
is even better. The winter one was way better than I thought for a winter show.
All I can tell you is if you are over the rink that's still iced up, make sure you guys have coats and jackets.
Oh no, I hope we're in there because it's gonna be hot. So
Oh no, dude, I personally love that
Ice
one
breaking.
better, but it's
Yeah.
cold in there.
Wait, I looked up where we were. We're in the Heroes Hall this time, and I don't.
Oh,
You
we
might
are?
be- yeah, you
Not
might be
the
in the
ice
regular one then.
Oh,
I
that's
think
funny.
the
Oh.
villains is the ice one.
We were in the Villains last year, and it was one of those things where you get there and you're standing there for 10 minutes, and you're like, "Oh, this is kind of nice. It's a little cool." And then by like the end of the day, you're like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
I need to bring a jacket."
We're in the heroes. We got upgraded, maybe.
They do like us because I'm so nice to them. I'm always like sending the payment for the booth right on time, and I'm always like, "This was a great show. Thank you so much." So maybe we got upgraded or something. I don't know.
I think
Yeah,
that's when I
maybe.
first
That's
saw
funny.
you guys was at Garden State last year. I just didn't get to meet you guys because I was like, okay, I got to come back for those guys, and then I think I was like, dude, I missed you guys.
You did that
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
You did that thing where you're like, "I'll come back," and we're like, "No, you won't."
You don't really like us. No, I'm just kidding.
And it's so funny because I always
We call
thought that
conventions.
people,
You're like, no, I'm just looking. I'll be back.
I always thought that people did that on purpose, and I realized no, you run out of time. You actually
Yeah.
run out of time.
I actually did that to a couple people last year because I was like, I actually have to get back to our table.
Yeah.
I'll come back, and then I got caught up talking to people and selling
Exactly.
comics, and I felt really bad.
Of course, there's people that actually do it on purpose, but I feel like the convention it's set up in a way where you get busy doing other things, and you don't get back to where you need to go.
Well, you know what actually has been happening to us, which was wild, especially at the winter one, was because a year ago we weren't as established on
Hey,
TikTok.
Gage, good to see you.
Oh, hi.
Gone.
I'm back in hiding.
And I'm out.
He's packing his comic because his Kickstarter just finished a while ago.
Oh, nice. Did you got funded and everything? You're ready to go?
Yep, I am signing and bagging and boarding books right now.
Oh, congratulations.
That's always the Kickstarter gamble where you're like,
And I'm
Man.
only on my second book, so all that crazy marketing stuff you guys are talking about, like I'm just starting to learn even how to start doing this. And Facebook has
least you have
been
the
my
funding.
main way to go.
Facebook, I'm sure Facebook comes with like the one problem that we're having. I don't know that it's like a huge problem, but like because we're most successful on TikTok, the audience is younger, and
I
when
have a
you're
lot of respect for that though, because I'm not the type of person. I'm sitting here right now with my avatar, like so, like that's something you can respect. People who can get out there, and because you're, like I said earlier, you're selling you as much as your comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
just
and
wanna
like
sell my
15-year-olds
comic.
bully you because it's TikTok.
You're pretty nice though, like all things considered. I
No,
mean,
but
15-year-olds are eternally 15-year-olds. Like that, I don't think.
But Gen Z is actually the nicest gen. Like that actually is true. Like I can't imagine trying to do this when 15-year-olds were 15 in 2005. You know what I mean? Like because they're actually nicer. 15-year-olds are nicer now than they ever have been before. Gen Z actually is living up to their reputation of being kind.
I know. It's like some of those TikTok videos where they're like being bullied and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Like, do you need
like
money?
what is
Like, you want my lunch money? Are you poor? I feel bad for you. You're being so mean." Yeah. Man. Yeah, it's funny though, definitely, because I mean, yeah, I didn't get a TikTok until like this last year, and then I'm like, oh, I'm old. Like
you do feel old on it.
I'm in my 30s, and
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
like, yeah.
It
Right.
is easier. It is easier to talk about your influences and comics from the past, comics from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like it is easier to do that on Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram. People know it. They were around for it a lot of times. You know, it's tougher on TikTok for sure.
I think it's worth having all of them, honestly, and just like try not to think too much about whatever the stupid follower number is or whatever. Just keep posting, because sometimes there's some people who are really dedicated and they're like, I'm just on Facebook, and they're never gonna be on Instagram or TikTok or not for another decade. Until
Yeah, there is a built-in audience on Facebook, and they're the people who won't leave Facebook. You know what I mean? Like that's a good audience. They are established. They might have
A lot
a
of them are
job
my
and
aunts
kids and
uncles
money to
and,
spend
like,
on comics.
stuff like that. Extended family members. Like
Yeah.
I said, in 10 years they'll be on Instagram,
Exactly.
and then whatever the new app is.
I figured out one thing. Facebook is for one thing, TikTok is for one thing, Instagram is for one thing, YouTube is for one thing. They all have their own things that they're useful for, and I do whatever that needs to be done on those things.
They're definitely different animals.
But they
Like
all
I do.
overlap.
So I do a lot of art collecting. So a lot of my posts are art for my story in my book,
Mhm.
done by artists I really liked. And I'm not as great at selling me. So Facebook's perfect because I can post up a picture and then write a little bit. I'm not as great on camera.
And I mean, even that's like, you don't have to do it like every time. It's just like occasionally. I think it's just the algorithms like favor a human face, and then also people just like seeing a person. They're like, oh, we're friends. Like, you know.
Wait,
like, I don't know,
click on that link tree. Click on our link tree so you can see how many stupid platforms we're on now.
Oh, I can do that right now. Hold on.
It's
This
like
is
I
wild,
heard-
man.
Yeah, it's like I heard about podcasts being like kind of getting in people's heads like why so many like conspiracy theorist people, like in particular, like favorite podcasts, but they're like, it's just because you've got this person in your ear, and it's kind of like the old radio show thing, and they're like whispering to you, and it feels really intimate, and you're like, yeah, totally, like we're having a conversation here, and it's a one-sided conversation, obviously, but
that's one thing. That's one thing that I keep thinking that I'm going to do is start a Bad Ink podcast, but we haven't done that one yet. But the latest one is the band camp because I'm making music to go with our comic,
which is awesome.
And so
that was funny.
That's wild, man. Like now it's like a whole multimedia thing, and like we have to keep adding links to this stupid link tree because it's like not just TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. It's like Bandcamp now too.
But all the videos are on the same thing. Like my boyfriend's on YouTube a lot, and like lately they put all those YouTube shorts, and it's just TikTok videos. Just like it's just TikTok videos on Instagram or Instagram on both of them. You know, like everyone just makes the one thing and just posts it everywhere. It seems like.
See, but it's funny because they're trying to make it stop you from doing that. They don't want you to put the
with the
TikToks on the shorts. They don't want you to put the TikToks on the Instagram.
Well, sometimes what you do is you just make it and then you save the file and then upload it, and then you have your unwatermarked thing and like unsound clip thing, so you can upload it and won't get like flagged as like outsider app competition thing. Like
that's the trick everybody's doing now. It's like I'll just record it on my phone. That way I don't have any of those things on it.
You do the bulk of it, or you do the bulk editing in like iMovie first, and then you like take that movie and then like one or two little photos and like plug that into the app's like editing software, and then they're like, you use our editing software, we'll promote your video more. Like it's definitely obnoxious, but it's still better just having something, because otherwise, I mean, I just try to remember what it was like when I was growing up, and like, you know, it was just like whatever was at the comic book store or like cool magazines, you know what I mean? Like as far as like word of mouth, otherwise like what you were running into, like now it feels like you can sell direct to the consumer a lot more in a way that was really difficult to do, and like we were saying, still make a good product where it's not like total, you know, clunky, like, oh, like you want money for this thing. Like,
well, we don't have to pander to people either. Like the other nice thing is like nowadays, like I feel like back if we were doing this 20-30 years ago, we'd have to kind of be a little bit more aware of like what's the trend, what are people already reading, and we would have to like force ourselves to do something. And I feel like everybody would have pouches on their biceps or whatever. Like we would have to do something to be more marketable. But nowadays, like we genuinely can just do whatever we want and like sort of put it out there over and over on social media, and eventually people will kind of get on board on the internet, what we're doing, you know?
Yeah, because the internet's made it where you can find that niche, and like even if there is, you know, like a couple hundred weirdos that want to see your stuff, like it's not like it was when you're just like in a small town, or you know what I mean, like again when you had to physically run into stuff more. Word of mouth.
You only need a couple hundred weirdos backing your Kickstarter to like fund an entire run of your book, you know.
Exactly. That's how it is now, which it really helps out because, you know, the Kickstarter is a beautiful thing, even though it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do a Kickstarter, and I think people out there, and that's why when we do the Kickstarters here on the show, I tell people nobody's making money off of Kickstarter. They're just trying to get their book out there so they can give it to you.
Breaking even half the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, because by the time you pay for all the rewards, all the like printing of the comics, like you have to raise like thousands of dollars just to print comics and make the little trading cards that were like one of your rewards, you know? Like, I don't know. I mean, unless you're like, you know, one of the top creators doing a Kickstarter for your passion project, I agree. I don't think a lot of people are actually making a big profit.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you gotta be smart with like the merchandising and stuff to try to compensate. But again, like, I mean, I joked with Evan last time. I was like, we like broke even, but I don't think we got into our nitty gritty. Like neither of us wants to really think about the hours spent. Where we were like, well, I don't think we got paid hourly.
Like even if we made a little bit of money, there's no way it makes up for how much work it took to
like the labor
two people do the entire Kickstarter.
See, that's what I'm saying though. I don't feel like the average person out there understands that.
Right.
They just see the number. Yeah. And Evan was even like joking about whether to do a price breakdown or not. He's like, I don't want to like. Some people might take it weird though. People interpret it weird sometimes, but it's just reminder. You're like, dude, there's overheads. It's like when I used to be a counter girl at a tattoo shop in like college, and they had a minimum of like $50, and it was some like mid-range shop. They weren't scratchers, but they wasn't all custom work. There was just mostly flash art. And it was like a $50 minimum in Albuquerque, and people are like, $50, why? And they're like, because it's supply costs. Like that's how I break even.
Yeah,
like,
by the time you pay for like your inks and the gun and
like that's the overhead of this. Like that's just covering the costs. Like that's how the Kickstarters feel, where they're like, this is just covering costs, and like maybe I'll celebrate. Like that's
And that's the thing though, because like I don't think any of the people out there, they look at it as something, and they're not really paying attention to it. But when you get, like you said, when you guys are doing these Kickstarters, there's no way you're making back the money per page you're supposed to be paid, or the money to write that you're supposed to be paid. If you guys even make money off of the Kickstarter, it's amazing. It's impressive, actually.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So you can see in the top or in the left, on the left image there, right? It's Lydia and I at a con.
beautiful.
So there's a
Model.
we look wonderful, right? There's a banner behind me, there's a banner behind Lydia, right? So I remember we made a bunch of money on the Kickstarter, and I had some of it sitting in an account after we printed the comics, and I was like, all right, we made some money. And then we had to do a con, and I was like, oh, I got to get these banners printed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to get like vinyl, like collapsible banners in like super high res, like well printed, like that's like $500, to get like a really nice thing. I mean, you're going to use it at every con forever, so it's worth, I think, in the long run.
Yeah.
But any profit that I had sitting in an account for a Kickstarter was spent on that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you just have so many things you keep having to buy.
Yeah.
So you just you're never like, oh, I made money. It's just always getting put back into, oh, we got to get skateboard decks, the one that's behind Lydia. Like we'll get those printed, and we'll get art prints made, and we got to get the stands to hold them up at the con. Like, it's just a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. It adds up quick sometimes, of like just the random side things you don't expect. I mean, any business, I guess, is like operating costs and random things where you're like, oh, website hosting domain fees, and like order business cards, or like ran out of padded envelopes. Now I'm gonna order those. Or like, and then you're like, ew, you lying? Like I thought you were cheap, but your shipping's atrocious. Like $20 for this.
That is exactly what it is, and it's funny because it's like I was saying, nobody's making money here. Everybody's putting the money right back into the book or right back into the business. This is not really making money. The only time you do make money is if you hit a higher end. You become a higher creator, and even then, sometimes you're making your money off of other things, not really what you're doing in front of you.
Yeah, and then at least the upside is we still own everything, so rather than having like sold it to a different publisher or something and probably honestly have gotten the same amount of money, at least we own all the creative rights still. So in that way,
I mean, if anybody ever wants to do the TV show adaptation, that's when we'll make the money, because we have the rights to it to sell.
Exactly. And by that point, we'll have AI doing all the CG, so it'll be cheap. It'll be nice. But
then at that point, we should just do it ourselves, because then we could just make a whole show with AI and 2 people. So
batting studios. Yeah.
That's why it's studios, right? Because we can do more than just comics.
Exactly. Yeah. I can see it now. It'll be like the Twilight Zone, but it was like interdimensional.
Yeah.
Can you cross dimensions?
Yeah. So yeah. No, I mean, no joke. Like, I don't know. This was something that like,
come on,
we were joking about, but it's like, it's a joke, but it's not really a joke. It's like heavy metal was a cartoon, man. Just like this could be something.
That was my gateway, I think, to heavy metal. Honestly, as much as it's like cheesy to some people, the heavy metal movie was probably my gateway.
So awesome! If anybody hasn't seen that, it's
heavy metal
you should see it. You guys should go out there and see it.
Just
it's
like
a psychedelic experience.
It's so awesome.
It's just like Tank Girl movie was my gateway to real Tank Girl.
Yeah.
And like that movie, I know is terrible with its like effects and stuff. Although Lori Petty's awesome, and like what is it?
Tank Girl rules, man.
In there?
I love that movie.
I love the movie, but it's not the comic,
Yeah, it's not the comic at all.
But yeah,
it's you guys did a good job of putting the book together, because it looks beautiful. It looks well put together. It feels good when you have it in your hand. Especially for a magazine-sized book, you're not expecting that type of quality.
Yeah,
some of it is we joke about it, but there's a niche to fill in indie comics, and that's like premium high end.
Yeah.
And we didn't really think about that until we started doing this, but that was sort of a choice that we started to make at every level. Was like a lot of indie people are going more like punk and scrappy and like kind of more like kind of scuffed, and that's kind of the appeal of it. But I feel like in a weird way we've sort of discovered this thing that not a lot of indie people are doing, which is like, I keep referencing it, but like Lydia and I are both record collectors, and I'm noticing more and more that like the stuff that people want is like the swirl colored 4-disc, super premium leather bound set that, and they don't care how much it costs. It'll, and it's like there's like and they only make like 200 of them ever.
Yeah.
There's sort of an interesting niche in comics for that, of like the low run indie but extremely well done premium things. We sort of like accidentally stumbled into that,
And
Yeah, because I think you're right, because it started off more as this is how we can do it.
Right.
Then let's make it because we can make some money. No, it started off more like, well, if we're gonna do it, let's do it well. We can only make 200 issues, then we'll do 200 issues.
Yeah, that was more it. And then once it was like initially, I mean, I always unfortunately think in terms of like comic projects that go quick, and I'm like, this is gonna be so fast, and then it like takes like 5 times the amount of time. But like yeah, with this, after a bit, we were like, all right, so we're not rushing this out. So like we might as well make it like high quality. So if people are waiting, like it's worth the wait. It's not like, oh, I waited and wow, this looks terrible. Like I really you really ganky rushed through this. Because it's one thing to be like kind of quick and rushed when you're on like a monthly deadline. I'm like, I forgive a lot of like monthly artists for like churning stuff out.
Yeah, so,
like,
you
22 days probably realistically, not 30 days. I mean, it's probably like more like 22 as far as getting ahead on stuff for being a human and having some days off, hopefully. But but that kind of stuff, I'm like, well, like whatever, we'll just make it look like we want it to look, I guess. With the
God, the third one's gonna be so good. People have been so patient with us, and I'm like, I swear it'll be good. You're gonna pick it up. The paper's gonna feel nice. The cover's gonna feel nice. It's gonna be good.
I can see why you're saying that, because I think we talked about the third issue like a while ago, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad. It's my fault. I haven't got the script written a while ago, and then I've just been taking way too long on layout revisions and then pencils and stuff. Especially because the pencils, I used to not spend so much time, but so much of the drafting just happens there, and that's like where all the undos happen, honestly.
Right.
Like with the analog art, is you want to make all the mistakes there and like figure stuff out. And I tend to do all the layouts in the wave, and then I'll start the pencils and try to get all the pencils done before I do inks, because there's times I think I'm going to be okay with something, and then when it comes time to pencil the page, I'm like, actually, I want to change it, or this layout needs work or something, or detail.
I think people who work digitally don't realize like your workflow when you work analog is you do have to like pencil every single page of a whole book, and then because there's that consistency. And you're right, Lydia, you have time you pencil 30 pages and then you go to ink 30 pages, and by the time you're ready to go back and ink page 1, you're like, oh my god, it's been long enough that I have all this stuff I want to fix.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the monster of it too.
Yeah, it's kind of good, because I mean, like that monthly idea is like there used to be a lot of stuff like when I worked on quicker projects that would just like bug you later, and you're like, wow, that face looks really terrible, or like I'm really annoyed by this panel. So it's kind of nice in a way that some stuff we can like strengthen up, you know what I mean? But I don't know, it's a trade-off. It's definitely like people are patient, hopefully to a certain extent. Like people get more used to realizing how much stuff takes. Like I try to think of that too, because definitely I like inhale, comics are so easy to rip through in like 15
as a reader,
an issue. And same with like shows, and then it's like that reminder of like how much effort it took to make that one episode, and with streaming it's so easy to just like inhale stuff repeatedly, and then like kind of like you were saying, forget how much work actually went into it, or like, god damn, like this was years of someone's life, that I'm just like, boop, that's it, like watched it, like kind of thing.
It's so funny because you're right, like and I don't think as consumers anybody really like pays attention to that, because when we get a comic, it's like, okay, that was good, where's the next one?
Yeah, it's like growing your own like tomato or something versus buying it in the store, and you're like, oh my god, like the plant from like seedling to this to get the product, and then you're like, all right, like I'll pay for the tomato in the store, like after just farming all your food.
This is all the stuff that we're selling at the con, right?
Yeah,
no, that's why I put it up, because I remember the video, like, oh, I had so much fun when you put it up. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was thinking the same thing. They sold out, what are they gonna do?
We're selling originals.
Help me unload some of this art.
Someone has to buy the
sorry,
the Bruce Campbell, that one.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that all this stuff is gonna sell.
That's what I'm hoping.
It looks really amazing.
The Punisher, someone has to buy the Punisher, because it's like, I swear, like I don't know how many times you're gonna be able to get a a superhero piece by Lydia, you know.
Yeah, it's funny.
And her art is just like this
Or
looks
a
so
groundhog.
different.
Don't you want a groundhog? Who doesn't?
Dude, that Carmen
That's
San
Carmen
Diego
Sandiego.
looks
I was about to
badass.
ask.
I gotta do Carmen San Diego again. That was so instrumental. She was definitely a very big influence.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say because I've been dying to tell you this, guys. You guys have this style, especially I'm looking at the style of yours, Lydia. And have you ever thought of doing a noir type of book?
Yeah, no, it'd be fun to do. I love like noir stuff. I mean, like shit, what's his name? The Alack Sinner books, like those were all amazing. Like I forget if Brian Azzarello writes those or what, but 100 Bullets was always awesome. Frank Miller.
I love Stray Bullets.
Stray Bullets too. That's another
Pure
noir.
noir.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I'm looking at your art and I can feel the noir on it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
I
would
always
love to
loved
see
like
them do a detective book.
and
Well,
shadow.
I mean, yes. I mean, I love, so I don't really love the show, but one of my favorite books is Altered Carbon,
Yeah.
which is like basically, I mean, there's like basically 2 or 3 noir sci-fi things that are like the best ever. There's like Neuromancer,
Dark
Blade
City.
Runner. Yeah, that's true.
It's a little cheesier, but
But and then like I guess Altered Carbon would be the most recent. That was like
Brazil's kind of
Brazil was a little bit, yeah. But we love Lydia and I love all that stuff, and it is really natural to combine sci-fi, which is what we already do with
Sci-fi is
noir.
They've done a lot of great detective sci-fis, yeah.
So I mean, I have an idea for issue 4 that we have like a really interesting concept for issue 4, and I have an idea that one way to execute it would be more of like a Altered Carbon Blade Runner kind of thing, but
you got my attention.
I don't know. We still aren't sure. It's such we have a really weird idea for issue 4 that I don't want to spoil, but I don't know how to do it yet, and so we have to figure out the kind of
that's the love of that writing thing, because right now I had to like scrap something I was working on and then decide let's do a whole different thing here. And then I was like, you know what, audience, I'll pull you guys in with me, and we're going to go through this thing together, the writer's journey together, because right now I don't like what I have. So I want to take you through the steps that I have, because people were asking me, Ralph, what are these steps about writing? And I was like, I think this is the best way to accomplish all of that in one shot.
Yeah.
It's cool that you brought the audience in. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, dude. And then I love doing that. I've done it a couple times where I write with the audience and help them write me the story. Like the big board behind me is one of those pieces where we write the characters together and we write the piece together. And cool. I threw it in there. I was like, okay, so you guys want to see what the writer's process is, the writer's journey is. So come along. I'll take you with what I usually do, with my bullet points, the maps, everything that takes me from point A to point B. And you guys will see a finished story by the end of this. Because sometimes when I start one of these projects, I don't have a finished story or somewhere I'm going. So this time around, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going with this. This has to be done. I have to do this. So I have no excuse. I have to finish this. So come on, you can see the whole process.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons I like your stuff on TikTok is because, you do that writer's dive. You talk about that writer's journey. And one of the reasons I started the Written Writ, which is my other show, is because there's this step that nobody talks about from reading all your writing books to becoming that writer. And that's that writer's journey that you personally take to become that writer. But nobody really tells you about that writer's journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just sort of are expected to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
It is weird, and it's like a lot of that journey is like you've learned all the rules, and now you have to figure out what you're actually going to use and what you're going to leave behind and what you're going to break, what rules you're going to break. It's a very personal journey for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that nobody talks about that.
No, it's because everybody keeps it secret almost, and so it's interesting that you talk about it more openly.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Is that like not wanting to like show too much?
Exactly. See, that's the whole thing. I finished reading all these books, and they all go, "This is how you write," and you're sitting there going. And then, the biggest writing advice and the best writing advice is write, which means you keep writing no matter what. And then people look at you like you're crazy, but there's a reason why this advice is being given to you, because the more you write, the more that journey of writing happens, and the more you get to where you're going to go. That's why you're supposed to keep writing. But people look at you like, oh, stop being an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who would, I don't know. Sometimes that happens to me on the TikTok comments is somebody will ask like, hey, how do I get better at making comics, or like how do I get better at this, or how do I learn how to do this? And usually my response is like, you have to just keep doing it, or you have to practice a lot. Like it.
Yeah.
It was like our art teachers in high school were like, you're going to at least minimum make 500 bad drawings over the course of your art career. I mean, I laugh now because on Instagram alone, I think I have over 1,000 posts, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I remember that.
talent.
They said 500 was like the magic number, as
Yeah.
if you would ever
They were just
stop
being
at
nice
500.
to us. Yeah,
bad
like
drawings.
it's like I made far more already than 500 in my life. I'm sure.
A lot of
they try not to discourage us. I think that's
So I
what
make more like 5,000. Yeah.
people do get kind of offended when we say that, though. Like when
Yeah.
they ask, like, how do we get to your level or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, just keep doing it. You have to practice. It's really, really hard. You have to do it so much, and they're like, ugh.
And
Like,
the only way to do it is by doing it, like as much as it's one of those things. Like, I mean, you could say you're doing it, but unless you're like, here's my book, and I mean, like, I know we're producing them slowly, but comic spectrum kind of thing.
exactly.
I am like fueled by people like Barry Windsor Smith or what is it, Jim Woodring with the Frank comics and stuff, who are just like, yeah, I'm on my own timeline, and when like I'm giving you a book, you get a book. Like,
yeah, well, Barry Windsor Smith just dropped that thing that took like 15 years.
at least 10 years plus. Yeah.
So awesome.
I still need to buy that. It looks amazing. The Monsters book looks so good. Speaking of film noir, I think that one's all like black and white. Yeah.
And it's
Or
funny,
not film, but noir.
the whole reason why I decided to take people on this journey is because it's easier to show them this is the process. This is what I'm doing. It doesn't mean you need to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm just saying, I'm showing you there's a process that happens, and this is how you get from A to Z. Because
Exactly.
if I keep telling you, and it's pretty much what I'm telling them is like you need to keep writing. Like in the one I'm working on now, I started off one bullet point. It transformed into a second bullet point, and it changed into a third bullet point, which had nothing to do with the other two bullet points. And then now it's a fourth bullet point, which had nothing to do with the other ones. But that's the process.
You're letting people in on that, yeah. It's really cool. I think that's cool. I think people gatekeep that too much. They think that if they tell they think that other people are gonna steal their process or instantly get really good if they find out how to do it. But it's not like that at all. I think it's good to inspire people.
Yeah.
Not at all. It doesn't work that way at all.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys are doing a great job. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you guys have sold out. That's just
We love that too. I hope it wasn't immediate. It helped with Evan making all the videos and stuff, and like definitely.
Yeah, my favorite TikTok is when Evan is like, they tell Evan, "You guys aren't going anywhere. Your book's not gonna sell." And Evan's like,
I don't know what they think though, like success is, because I want to be like, yo, like unless you're Jim Lee, who like ironically, like left to go make Image, but then why did he leave Image? Like, why did he go get paid more at DC? And now he's president of DC and like Lord of that. So I mean, unless you're him, like you're probably not making that much money. Like it's like sort of like where they're like, you're not gonna make it. I'm like, I don't know if they made it either, like, to be honest. Like
yeah, people do sometimes want to challenge us. They say like, yeah, you'll never make it, all that stuff, and I'm like, we've made it, man. Like people are reading our stuff. Like this is it. We did it.
But that's because they try to put the level of make it. They try to put their level of make it so you can reach their level of make it that they have for you. Instead of well, we're there. We know where we're trying to do. And then you can. And I love the fact that you did that, Evan. That you sat there. Well, our book is sold out.
Yeah, he was like, no one knows about your comic, and I was like, oh, this comic.
Enough
and
people.
I was like holding up nothing because I had nothing to hold. I was like, oh wait, it's gone. Like,
I love that video.
Because I mean, yeah, it's like it doesn't have to be the mass appeal, but it doesn't mean there isn't a audience somewhere. But that's why it's funny when those people comment. I'm like, well, obviously it's not for you, but there's plenty of other people who like it just fine. It's like music. It's just like, yeah, you might not like the band, but other people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like the fandoms of everything has gotten to that point now where I need to tell you what it needs to be. And I'm like, no, that's what you think it needs to be. That's what your soft spot or sweet spot is, and just because it's not what you want doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They get so toxic. Ooh.
Yeah, it sort of helps that our stuff is It helps. It helps a lot that our stuff is weird. Like we don't do anything that a lot of people kind of recognize right away. Like we don't do genres or styles of stories that people see and then they say, "Oh, well, it should be." I've read a lot of this kind of story, so it should be like that. Like a lot of times people read our stuff and it's just really different, so they don't even know what to tell us to change to make it what they want. You know what I mean? It just sort of kind of confuses them, which is actually helpful.
That's really good.
Dampens that instinct of people telling you what it should be because they don't have any idea what it is in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, I just see a nice psychedelic book where that's so much fun, and you know, and the closest they can get to is heavy metal, and at the same time, heavy metal is not one thing.
Yeah. Which is and if you don't like issue 1 of our book, read issue 2 because it's completely different. It's just like heavy metal, you know.
Try issue 3. Keep buying.
And issue 3 is going to be issue 3 is going to be very different. Like I actually don't know if people who liked issue 2
I know that is
will be excited about issue. I have no idea. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I like what you guys are doing. I like the fact that it does feel like one of those Twilight Zone, you know, Black Glass, or you know, those type of
Mirror,
things.
yeah.
There you go, the Black Mirror.
Outer Limits.
Like
the '90s had that reboot of Outer Limits that only I watched.
Exactly, Outer Limits.
I really like it.
And honestly, even some of the Tales from the Crypt style stuff too.
Yeah, EC. I guess we reference heavy metal a lot, but the other really big influence for me is EC comics. Like I'm
super they get a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Weird Science, all that stuff.
Was it Weird Science? Was
Weird
that
Science fantasy and Weird Science, and
exactly. Yeah, those are epic for sure.
I'm surprised that you probably do get it a lot, you know, because you guys mix horror and sci-fi, and a lot of people get really weird when you start to do that stuff. You know, I've had people like get upset with some of the stuff that I put out there because it mixes fantasy, it mixes supernatural, it mixes sci-fi.
Really hard line, and it's really bizarre. They're like, I am into fantasy. Like we had someone actually at the first, like the one almost a year ago, like lecture us on like fantasy and like.
Yeah, remember that? They were like,
I love this stuff, and they were like, no, and they just wanted to like lecture.
They told us that we were like, it's combining fantasy and sci-fi, and they were like, does it have dragons? And we were like, no. And they were like, then it's not fantasy. Like they were just like, no.
And to me, like I'm like one of those annoying people who I'm like fantasy and sci-fi are pretty much like, where's the line being drawn? Like it's sort of just magic, but magic is high tech, you know, like I don't know, it can be very arbitrary, or you can have sci-fi in old school times or some, you know, like crossover. But this lady, like, she did not want to hear it. She just wanted to like tell us how it was, the facts.
It was wild, man.
Like we were wrong, and she did not want to buy our book. just lecture us on books.
She lectured us for like 20 minutes about the difference between and then in the end didn't buy anything, and we were like, I kind of thought she was gonna actually buy it in the end, but maybe she'll be back this year.
She's like, I've decided.
She probably wants to turn you off again.
My internet troll.
Exactly.
Oh man.
I might have to run in a few minutes, but
don't worry. I was about to say we are at the top of the hour, so it's time for us to do the thing we usually like to do here. And Evan and Lydia, tell them where they can find you and all the good stuff. You know, I know you have separate things as well, so you know, as well as the interdimensional, you can tell them about your own personal thing. Lydia, you start.
You can find us at battingstudios.com and Batting Studios on all the social stuff. Rosie is a fan. That's who was yelling just now. But
I think she wants to tell you. Tell us.
Yeah, exactly. But Evan posts regularly. I need to help him out more. I do not contribute enough to the social media machine. But we try to keep updates going and keep news out and stuff, and future projects, updates. Our slow progress, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know.
We're Batting Studios on everything. It's just one word, Batting Studios. We're like lucky enough. We locked it down.
Exactly.
Yeah, you did a good job at it because I can just plug it in Batting. You guys don't have anything on Facebook though, right?
We do, but we haven't posted in a long time. Or no, did we ever make one? Maybe we didn't. No, we just posted personal accounts the first.
Okay. Because I went looking for you guys on Facebook for the show, and I was like, okay, I guess they don't have
it. Bothered. And it's funny because, yeah, I think we were just feeling lazy with the
we have everything else though. We have everything. It's super easy to find. Yeah, it's at Batting Studios, and then Lydia, you can find your site at Lydia Robotica.
Right? Oh yeah, LydiaRobotica.com.
Lydia Robotica.
I need to update that.
Lydia's
or
art is
new art on there.
rad, and if you want to commission Lydia to do a piece, you should, because she will do something way better than somebody else would. I'm just saying.
And of course, if everybody wants to see these guys in person, they can go to Garden State Comic Fest this weekend for Bad Ink Studios and go check them out. Go check out what they've done so far. You may not be able to get a book there, but you can see all the stuff and all the art. And
Well,
hey,
here's
they
the-
have the original art there.
Here's the secret. Is we did a secret small, very small reprint for the show. So if you actually
Just for the con.
just for the con. So we are sold out, but you can pick up the last first print copies. We can consider them first prints at the show.
Exactly.
There you have it, folks. Dude, I feel like my wallet said, "Hey, can you find some money, Ralph?"
Won't say no.
And the book costs how much? Just the way people know ahead of time, like Ralph.
It's still $10. It's
Yeah.
been $10 for years. Like, we have never adjusted it for inflation. So
Wow.
I know.
we
know.
make less now
Believe it?
on it.
It
Yeah.
should be $20 now, but
Oh yeah, if you adjust it up, most books
exactly.
and most regular books, and you guys aren't regular books, sell for $20 right now.
So it's $10 and you get like a lot of pages, oversized format. It's like a real deal. I'm surprised people don't realize how good of a deal our stuff is right now. So yeah.
You get our fake ads in the back and the I saw yous and with connections and stuff.
I like the authenticity you guys went with to make it look like that old style magazine book.
Yeah.
Especially with the little commercials.
Yeah, I had fun with that. Our local newspaper in Albuquerque used to run all those. It was always funny when the I saw yous matched up occasionally. I know they did that with Craigslist for a while, but I don't know if it was the same.
Yeah, tons of Easter eggs, tons of stuff for like not as much as we should be selling it for because we're stupid. So there you go.
Inflation. One day. No, just kidding.
There you have it, folks. This has been Apple Bites. We're here with Lydia and Evans of Bad Ink Studios, and of course, Garden State Comic Fest is this weekend. You guys can go check out everybody, except for Gage. Gage is going to be in Vegas.
I'm on the other side of the U.S., so you won't see me, guys.
We will be there at Garden State showing off all the great stuff. Of course, we'll hit up Bad Ink to do our little usual video, and maybe a little bit more, something a little bit more. We'll see what happens.
Cool.
Of course, Wednesday, if you guys want to join us Wednesday at the Written Writ, we will be doing more Garden State Comic Fest stuff, as a plethora of people who will be at Garden State Comic Fest will show up on Wednesday to tell us what they have and what you can get at Garden State Comic Fest.
Cool. Sweet. That sounds great.
All right, there you go. I'm looking forward to Garden State Comic Fest, as you guys all can tell. And of course, on this show, instead of doing what I usually do, we press the button and something happens, and it's this. Adiós, amigo.